All right, so diving right in this time, we're looking at Tropical Storm Milton down in the Gulf of Mexico. You sent over some articles about it, and gotta say it's looking pretty serious, especially for Florida. What are your thoughts so far?
Well, the concerning thing is this isn't just any storm brewing, It's coming right after Hurricane Helene, which really slammed into the southeast last week. Florida especially got hit hard.
Yeah, Helene was no joke. Millions were without power, and things are nowhere near back to normal yet.
Exactly. One article mentioned rebuilding costs from Helene are already estimated at over $20 billion. And tragically, hundreds are still unaccounted for.
Wow. Okay, so you've got a whole state still reeling from a major hurricane, and now this Milton is looming. Is it going to be another hurricane or?
It's looking more and more likely. And if it does become one, some forecasts say it could get strong really fast, even reach major hurricane status. We're talking Category 3 or higher.
Which translates to what exactly, for those of us who don't have the categories memorized?
Right, so that means sustained winds of at least 111 miles per hour. Serious stuff.
Okay, no doubt about that being serious. And where's it headed? Florida, specifically.
All eyes are on the western coast of Florida right now. Projections from the National Hurricane Center show Milton potentially making landfall there by, get this, the middle of next week.
Mid next week, so not a ton of time to prepare. People in Florida must be on edge.
Absolutely. One article highlighted that Governor DeSantis already declared a state of emergency. 35 counties in preparation for Milton.
Wow, 35. That's a big chunk of the state.
It is, and it's significant.
Yeah.
Means they can mobilize resources faster, more efficiently, and sends a message to residents, this is serious, get ready.
Which brings up a question. How is FEMA even handling this on top of the last disaster? They must be stretched incredibly thin already.
And that's a critical point. This situation really highlights what we call compounding disasters. One disaster like Helene hits an area, and before any sort of recovery can really even begin, another potential disaster strikes. Resources are already used up, people are exhausted, and who knows what kind of shape the infrastructure is in. Makes recovery incredibly challenging.
So it's not just about the immediate impact of Milton, but how it might make all the problems left by Helene even worse. Any specific areas of concern you're seeing right now?
One of the biggest worries is storm surge. Basically, the rise in sea level caused by the storm's winds pushing water towards the shore.
So like extra high tides?
Kind of, but with a lot more force behind it. This can cause massive flooding, especially in low-lying coastal areas already vulnerable from Helene.
We're not talking about a little extra water here, are we?
Not at all. Some areas could see a storm surge of several feet on top of whatever they might have already dealt with during Helene.
Yeah.
And then factor in the potential for heavy rainfall. We're talking maybe 5 to 12 inches of rain across Florida. Already saturated ground. It's a recipe for really bad, potentially catastrophic flooding.
This is where it gets really concerning. And speaking of concerning, that article you mentioned about the human cost,
Yeah.
that was rough.
Yeah, absolutely. The human cost, especially with these back-to-back storms, it's a lot. Imagine dealing with the aftermath of one hurricane, cleaning up, trying to put your life back together.
Yeah.
Then boom, another one's on the way. That CBS News article, there were stories from families in Florida just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Facing the possibility of going through that trauma all over again.
It's heartbreaking, honestly. And beyond the emotional toll, what about the practical stuff? Didn't that CBS article say something about insurance? Like people not even being able to get it because of Helene?
Right. That's becoming a huge problem in these disaster-prone areas.
Yeah.
Some insurance companies just won't issue new policies in places that just had a major event.
Yeah.
And even if you have coverage, the claims process after a disaster, it's a nightmare. Can take forever. Incredibly difficult. Just another thing piling on top of everything else.
So you've got this new threat, Milton, with all its potential dangers. And then, layered on top of that, these long-term challenges Florida's already facing. Makes you wonder about the bigger picture. Climate change, future of hurricanes.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here?
Exactly. It's the conversation we need to be having. While it's tough to blame any single storm on climate change, scientists are saying we're going to see more frequent and intense weather events, hurricanes included, warmer oceans, more fuel for these storms, rapid intensification, greater rainfall. It all adds up.
So this situation with back-to-back hurricanes, we could be seeing this more often. That's concerning, to say the least. And it makes planning ahead even more important, right?
Absolutely. Can't just react as these things happen. We got to be proactive, investing in resilient infrastructure, better early warning systems. That's the only way.
Makes sense. So shifting gears a bit from the big picture to right now, what are the experts saying people in Florida should be doing to get ready for Milton?
First thing, stay informed. Pay close attention to the National Hurricane Center, local authorities, all the official updates. Things can change fast with these storms, so being up to date on the forecast is crucial.
Stay informed. Got it. What about, like, practical steps, things people should be doing to prepare?
That FEMA article had some good tips. Having a hurricane plan is key. Knowing your evacuation route, if you're in an evacuation zone, having a disaster kit ready to go, water, non-perishable food, medications, copies of important documents, all that, and don't forget about pets.
Right. Got to have a plan for furry family members, too.
Absolutely. And it's not enough to just have a plan. Got to review it, make sure everyone in the house knows what to do, check your supplies, expiration dates, all that. Being prepared makes all the difference when things get stressful.
It's easy to get complacent, especially if you've lived in a hurricane zone for a while. But Milton's a good reminder. These storms are not to be messed with. It's like they say, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And preparing means, yeah, having a plan, but also really getting what Milton could bring.
Exactly. And one thing that really stuck out from the stuff you shared was how much they emphasized the inland flooding potential.
Right. People always think hurricanes, coastal damage, which, yeah, huge concern. But the rain these storms bring, that can cause just as much devastation inland.
Absolutely. And it's easy to forget if you're not right on the coast, but we're talking potentially Florida-wide flooding here. Even communities still dealing with Helene's aftermath. It's like a domino effect.
Cascading, yeah.
Exactly. And this is where that compounding disasters thing comes in again. Areas hit hard by Helene's flooding, or even earlier storms, like, what was it, Debbie? They're going to be even more vulnerable now. Ground's already soaked. Drainage systems might be overwhelmed. It doesn't take much more rain to push things over the edge.
So it's not just Milton on its own, it's how Milton interacts with all the existing problems, all the vulnerabilities that are already there.
On the ground, exactly. That's why people got to be so aware of their surroundings, what the risks are locally, and have a plan that actually considers that.
This has been, honestly, kind of a sobering deep dive, real reminder of just how powerful nature is and how important being prepared is. Anything else that jumped out at you from the info we've gone over, anything our listeners should really keep in mind as we wrap up here?
Amidst all the data, the forecasts, what really struck me was just how resilient people are. Even facing these huge challenges, people find ways to come together, help each other, rebuild. It's like a reminder that even when things are really rough, there's always hope.
That's a really powerful thought to end on. And it's a good reminder that, yeah, we've been focusing on the dangers here, what could go wrong. But there are always incredible stories of strength, of community that come out of these situations, too.
100%. And those stories, they're just as important to pay attention to. They remind us that we're all human. We have that capacity for compassion, for resilience, even when things are tough.
Well said. Huge thanks to you for guiding us through all of this. It's complex, it's changing fast. But for our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you the info you need to stay safe, stay informed. Knowledge is power, especially with these increasingly frequent extreme weather events.